Hello. Oh, this girl's got a million size.
Good evening. Can somebody respond?
Good evening, sir.
Sir.
Good evening. How are you?
I'm good, sir.
How is the sound? Is it good?
It's clear from my own side, sir.
All right. Thank you so much, madam.
Sir.
So, once again, good evening to you all. I welcome you to our sixth session. Under this session, we'll be talking about human-oriented perspective, user-oriented perspective of human-computer interaction, looking at cognitive human trust. This is a section we are going to discuss today. Before we continue, let me share my screen so that you can be able to see. I received complaints regarding this application that we are using. Some of you are still of the opinion that, by the way, this is an advert for a bra from Alibaba.com. This is not porn, as you can see, so that somebody will not say that our lecturer, I saw some notification on his phone. I think he's watching porn. This is not porn, actually. This is Alibaba. This is an advert. So let's open the file. So if you remember, in the last class, we had a discussion on something similar. Okay, only that in today's class, we'll be looking at the cognitive human trust aspects of user-oriented perspective of human-computer interaction. And in this, we'll be looking at some of these topics, especially topics related to cognitive model and other perspectives of human-computer interaction. So this is what today's discussion is all about. But before we continue, I want to know if my screen is visible to you, and if the size of the screen is also okay. Please kindly confirm.
Yes, sir, it is visible.
All right.
I see your screen from me.
So we can see your screen, but we can't hear you again.
Yeah, I'm just coming, okay? Just give me a moment. Okay, I'm back. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, we
Yes,
can hear
sir.
you.
All right, so let's begin. So today, as you can see on the screen, we'll be looking at a very important topic known as the cognitive human trust in human-computer interaction. If we look at the introduction of this section, which we will understand that cognitive human trust combines what we call the study of cognitive psychology as well as cognitive modeling. So this is a combination of two fundamental theories. Okay, and these two areas of study play a very important role in human-computer interaction because they, one way or another, help design, or let me say, help designers or help developers or help people who are about to implement system to understand how users think or how users learn, as well as how users interact with the system. So remember, when dealing with human-computer interaction, we're trying to build a system that is very efficient, at the same time, very interactive, so that users can find the system useful and friendly. These are, I think, some of the fundamental principles of human-computer interaction. So let me repeat. This section of cognitive human trust is actually going to study, or is going to help us understand the study of cognitive psychology as well as cognitive modeling, which we'll be looking at them one after the other. And I say that what these two theories, or let me say principles, help us do is that they help the developer or the designer and that understands how the users think while using the system, what they learn using the system, and then how they interact the system. So in short, we can say that this aspect or this section is talking about the cognitive psychology and the ideas surrounding human behavior. So we are actually going to study behavior in relation to human-computer interaction. Now, under this note, I think we have some study objectives or outcomes. One of them says that after studying this session, I expect you to be able to understand or describe the different types of cognitive models. That is one. Number two, you should be able to analyze available inspection methods. And number three, learn how to apply inquiry methods on problems of cognition. Then number four, explain prototyping methods. And number five, carry out evaluation using the test and metrics model. So this is what we are expected to learn from this particular study session. So let's start with the first model, which is the parallel design. Let's understand what parallel design is. But before that, what is cognitive modeling? Now, somehow cognitive modeling involves creating computational models in order to estimate how long it takes for people to perform a given task. This is what cognitive modeling is all about. It tries to understand how much time it takes for somebody to achieve a particular task. Now, why is timing very important here? Timing is very important here because there is a subject, particularly in the field of computing, by the name of data structure. Now, if you have not done data structure, I think you're going to do data structure in your subsequent levels. And in data structure, there is a particular topic known as the big O notation. Now, the big O notation is a subject matter that talks about the computational speed as well as computational manipulation within the information technology systems. Now, one of the essence of introducing computation is to fasten or to hasten or to quicken certain tasks that are being achieved in the past. Now, 10, 15 years ago, before somebody can actually get a book. Maybe it takes time, but now with the advent of Google, with just a click and a few keystrokes, somebody can be able to download a book and get the book from any part of the world. Now, that is one of the fundamental essence of computation. So when talking about cognitive modeling will help us understand how much time, or it helps us understand how to estimate the time it takes people to perform a given task within a computer environment. Now, what I do not know is that whether you guys can actually listen to what I'm saying. If you can, please give me some thumbs up or just say a word, because I can hear the sound in my ear that the network is poor. Can somebody say something, please?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. We are with you.
We are with you, sir.
All right. Thank you. Thank you very much. So now another thing that the cognitive models do is that they employ techniques that are used to predict user behavior and then measure task performances and also improve the interface design. So these are the fundamental three things the cognitive model does. I'll mention them again. Number one, we say that there is issue of predicting user behavior, how a user is ought to behave on a particular environment at a particular time. And then we measure the task performance, okay? The performance of that particular task and how long it takes for that task to be performed. Then also to improve the interface design. All these are done in order to improve the interface design. So all this is just an introduction about what cognitive models are all about. Now, our first design principle is what we call the parallel design. Now, let's take a look at the parallel design. Now, parallel design is a design approach where multiple designers create different solutions at the same time using the same requirement. Now, imagine that there is a goal set for two different designers to create a website. Now, one of them is very good at Python and the other is very good at Java. So if two of them are able to design a particular website that looks the same, that functions the same, but using different solutions, that is what parallel design is all about. Now, how does it work? Now, several designers receive the same requirements. That is one thing you should know. If you have 2 or 3 designers, all of them will be given the same requirements. Number 2, each designer works independently without having to interact with the other, without having to share ideas, or without having to communicate. Now, why is it so? Because we want to see an independent way of thinking. Remember, cognitive model is trying to study what? Behavior. Now, if you want to study people's behavior, it is very, very important to understand them in isolation. Don't study them together unless there is a special request for that. Now, number 3, each of them produces a different design. And in the process, designers present their ideas to a particular group so that they can be assessed or they can be evaluated. Now, the team discusses all the designs and the best idea from each designer are now combined. Now, in this situation, designers improve their solutions again. Now, what is the essence of having this kind of parallel design? Now, when 10 people design one thing for you and all of them arrive at a particular point Now you collect all the ideas, put them together, score the ideas, analyze the ideas, and then choose the best of the best out of them. Now this is a strategy that has been in use by Facebook. There is a Facebook competition that takes place every year. We call it Facebook Hack Cup. Now, what does Facebook do? Facebook will invite experts from around the world. They will give them parameters and they will ask them to hack into Facebook. Now, the best 3 people to hack Facebook will now be asked to submit a report on how they hacked Facebook so that Facebook can use their findings to improve their system. Now, this is something very similar to what we are talking about right now. So in the end, we are going to pick the best design and we are going to ask them to work together by improving those designs so that one single or one major design can actually be taken or used. Now, what is the advantage of this? The advantage of this is that it allows for generation of many creative ideas, and in some cases, it encourages innovation and it reduces design bias, which is very, very important when designing a particular system. And in the end, we have the best product. So these are the advantages of having a parallel design as a consideration during system development. Now, the next topic, GOMS model. Now, the GOMS model is actually an acronym that stands for goals, operators, methods, and rules. Now, what are these? Now, I want you to know that this is a family of techniques that are used in analyzing user complexity of interactive systems. Now, what do you mean by user complexity? Now, user complexity could mean different things. It could mean the best a designer designs a system, or how complicated a system design might be during the time of design. Now, sometimes complexity is good, but sometimes it does not help the designer. So one of the things this model does is that it analyzes those complexities so that we use them to our advantage. Now, how do we achieve this by the use of this model? Let's start with the first one, which is goals. Now, what goals do is that it represents what the user wants to accomplish. That is one. In trying to analyze the complexity of interactive system, the first thing we do is we kind of represent what the user wants to accomplish. That is the first one, which is the goal. Now, take for instance, maybe the user wants to create a login system. That is one example of a goal. Maybe another example is they want to save a particular document, or they want to create an API, something that links to a payment gateway. Now, we have the second one, which is the operators. Now, what the operators do is that operators are basic actions that are being performed by the users, such as clicking the mouse, pressing the keys, moving the cursors, or sometimes reading a particular text. That is two. Number three is the method. Now, methods are sequence of operations or sequence of operators used in order to achieve those goals. Okay, so method, like I said, these are sequence of operations that help us achieve or accomplish the goals we want to achieve. For example, if the goal is to save the document, now the method is you click the file, click on save, and then probably you press OK. That is a method. Now, number 4 is the selection rules. Now, selection rules determine which method to use when multiple methods exist. For example, if I want to save a file, I can go directly and click on Files, then Save As, then I type the name of the file, then I click on Save. Now, another way to save a file is to simply click on my keyboard by pressing the shortcut Control plus S. Control S. It also means save. So it depends on how much, or it depends on how I intend to arrive at my my method. Okay. So selection rules determine which method to use when multiple methods exist. Now, when do I use the shortcut and when do I use the direct path? Now, to answer that question, mostly I use shortcuts when I'm in a hurry, or sometimes when I'm using laptop without a mouse. But when I have mouse with me, sometimes I want to just click, or if I'm not in a hurry. So this is what the selection rule is all about. Now, the next model we'll be talking about is what we call the human processor model. Now, let me be honest with you all. This particular subtopic, I think, is one of the largest topics in this entire study section, because it has a very large volume of information that we need to process in order to understand the model. Let me sip some water. So the human processor model is a cognitive model. It's a cognitive model that explains how humans process information when interacting with system. I'll repeat again. The human processor model explains how humans process information when interacting with a particular system. Now, in order to understand this definition clearly, it is very important to understand this particular diagram. And this particular diagram is known as model of the human processor. Now, what does the model say? First, the model, as you can see, is divided into 3 sections. We have what we call the perceptual processor subsystem. So sometimes we call it the perceptual subsystem. Then we have what we call the cognitive subsystem. And then we have what we call the motor subsystem. Now, the perceptual system helps us understand the aspect of hearing and seeing in the system, while cognitive section of the system help us deal with the thinking part as well as the decision-making part of the system, while the motor subsystem help us with the movement, such as the movement of the arms, movement of the legs, the mouth, and then, of course, the movement of the eyes. So these are called motor processor. So as you can see in the diagram, this diagram tries to explain how humans receive information, how humans think, and how humans respond physically when interacting with the system. Now we are going to look at this. Diagram and explain it one by one. Now let's start with the root of the system, which is the senses. Now this is the starting point of the model, and the senses collect information from the environment, such as the eyes for vision, such as the ears for hearing, the skin for touching, and the nose for smelling. Now let's have an example. Now, by seeing the login button on the screen, you should be able to sense and know that we are going to use this login in order to log into something. I hope you understand that. This is one example. Now, moving forward, we have the next in line, which is the perceptual processor. Now, the perceptual processor is divided into two sections, or it has two major subsystems. We have the visual images, visual image storage, and the auditory image storage. But before that, this stage is the stage that interprets what the senses detect. Okay, what the senses detect. So this is why we say that we have the visual images, then we have the auditory images. Now, visual is for the sight, while auditory is for the hearing. I hope that is clear. Now, sometimes we say that these visual images and the auditory images possess what we call a short-term sensory memory, which means sometimes they store information about images briefly. It doesn't last long. Now, if you want to try this, you can just look at someone, then you close your eyes and try to imagine the person. You cannot 100% describe the clothes that person is wearing or the features or characteristics of that particular individual. So in the computer world, the visual image storage stores images also briefly, such as the login buttons, the menu, and the icon. While the auditory image storage, it stores sounds. And even the sound, it is a brief sound, such as notification errors or notification beeps, or sometimes voice instruction. Now, let's look at the next subsystem, which is the working memory. Now, the working memory is the temporary thinking space of the brain, and it holds information briefly as well, and it processes the current task that we have at hand in order to make a decision. So even at that time, information is not permanent. It only holds information for a short period of time. Now, just take an example. Maybe you think maybe you need to click a login in order to enter. Now, the working memory will hold the information for as long as you need the information, but after some time, it disappears. Okay, so this is one thing with temporary thinking space. Now, on our right-hand side, we have the long-term memory. The long-term memory is the memory that stores information permanently. And we can say that the example is maybe how to use the mouse, or maybe what login means. Now, each and every one of us, even without having to read it somewhere, or even without having to try and recall, we all know why we use the mouse. We all use the mouse for pointing. We also use the login in order to log into a particular protected environment. So long-term memory stores information that everybody knows without any doubt that this information is this, and it does not change. Now, the next one, which is immediately below the long-term memory, is the cognitive processor. Now, the cognitive processor is the decision-making center. Why is it called the decision-making center? It is called the decision-making center because this is where the thinking is taking place. This is where the analysis is taking place. This is where the problem solving is taking place. And likewise, the decision-making faculty. Now, we also have the motor processor, which controls physical movement, and it sends signals to the hands, to the eyes, to the mouth, and to the legs. For example, when you move the mouse, or when you click the buttons, or when you type the password. And then in the end, we have what we call the movement response, which is the final action. And this is when the system responds, and we consider it the final response as far as this processing is concerned. So I hope this is clear. Now, The next question is, why is this model important for human-computer interaction? And why is it important to a designer? Why should a designer have this at the back of their mind? Number one is to reduce user thinking effort. To reduce user thinking effort. That is number one. Number two is to improve interface clarity, which is everything everybody wants. And then, of course, to reduce memory load. Now, when we have two separate memories, a long-term memory and a short-term memory, we reduce the size of the memory consumption because short-term memory will not hold every information forever. If we are to have a long-term memory alone, then time will come when every space is occupied because every information is stored. And by default, not every information is important. Not every information should be remembered. This is why short-term memories are there, so that they can hold information and process the information. After processing the information, they no longer need that information, so they discard it or they throw it. They don't need it anymore. So these are some of the importance of why studying these models is very important. Now, let's move to the next topic, which is the keystroke level modeling, which is also another model that works very similar to the GOMS. So in short, we can say this is a lesser comprehensive version of the GOMS that makes simplifying assumptions in order to reduce calculation time and complexity. So what it does is that it focuses on low-level actions that do not waste much time and consume much energy and resources. Then it measures the time for keystrokes. And by keystroke, I believe we all know what a keystroke is. When talking about a keystroke, we're actually talking about the keys on our keyboard. Those are our keystrokes. Each time we press a key, we're actually creating a keystroke. And then number three, it predicts task completion time. And finally, it reduces complexity. So this is what keystroke level modeling is all about. Now, we'll move to the next topic, which is the inspection method. Now, what is the inspection method for the above? Now, when talking about the inspection method involves evaluating usability without directly testing the user. Sorry, without direct user testing. I don't know whether you understand that. This usability evaluation method involves observation of users by an experimenter or the testing and evaluation of a program by an expert reviewer. They provide more qualitative data as tasks can be timed and recorded. So inspection method is one method we use for evaluating usability. Now, when evaluating usability, what we actually do is that we inspect the users. And who is inspecting? The inspector could be an expert, or it could be a designer, or it could be an observer, or maybe an experimenter, or maybe an evaluator. And the method we use for this is that we provide quantitative data and allow timing tasks, as you can see, and then identifying usability problems. With that, we can be able to make a lot of effort to solving the problems. Now, let's take a look at the first method, which is the card sorting. Now, what is a card sorting? A card sorting is a way that involves users grouping information for a website's usability review. Now, in short, we can say that the card sorting is a usability method used to organize website contents. So when we say card sorting, it means that we are organizing something based on citing criteria. Now, who are the participants that conduct the card sorting? We have what we call the review website content. We have the group related items. We have created categories and label categories. These are some of the processes that participants look into. Now, what is the purpose of sorting? The first purpose of sorting is to understand user thinking. And number two, to organize the website structure in order to avoid jam-packing things in one place. And then, of course, it kind of help in deciding how the homepage layout is being spread. Okay, so this is card sorting, and card sorting is a method for grouping information so that usability review is performed excellently without any failure. The next topic is the ethnography, which we discussed in one of our classes just a few days back, where we stress on the fact that ethnography is a word that we derive from anthropology, which help us understand how users behave within a particular environment when dealing with a computer system. So basically, as we all know, it helps study the activities of the user as well as track the work of the user in order to understand the user and their behavior. So this is what ethnography is all about. We mentioned this in our previous class. And we also stress that it helps us in understanding the behavior, the work sequence, the real world usage of the system, as well as the user environment in general. Now, moving forward, the next technique or the next method is the heuristic evaluation. Now, what is heuristic evaluation? Heuristic evaluation is a usability method where experts evaluate interfaces using usability principles. Now, based on the notes, we say that heuristic evaluation is a usability engineering method for finding and assessing usability problems in a user interface design as part of an iterative design process. Now, what are involved in this process of heuristic evaluation? First of all, we should know that there is an involvement of a very small number of evaluators who would examine the interface using recognized usability principles. Okay. Now, remember, these principles are heuristic in nature. Number two, it uses what we say fast as well as inexpensive methods for inspection. And the reason is to reduce cost and to improve efficiency. And I think based on the note, it is considered one of the most popular usability inspection methods because of its ability to be quick, cheap, and easy. Now let's talk about the usability inspection. Now, when talking about the usability inspection, we believe that it is a structured expert review of a particular system using a set of guidelines. And we should know that this review is conducted by a group of experts who are deeply familiar with the concepts of usability design, and the expert focus on a list of areas in design that have been shown to be troublesome for the user. So let me break this down for you so that you understand. When talking about usability inspection, from the beginning we say that it is a structured expert review. This is something that is being conducted by the expert to review usability, to see how users use the system. Now, what do? Number one, they use a guideline. It is very, very recommended. It is highly, highly anticipated that an expert should be able to use a guideline before they can perform an inspection on a system. And these guidelines sometimes are known as standards. This is why we have what we call the ISO standards. That is the International Organization for Standardization. Now, number two, the expert needs to examine the system thoroughly before they can identify common usability problems. Now, in most cases, some of the focused areas in usability evaluation includes the navigation systems, the feedbacks, the error handling of the system, and the layout consistency of the system. These are some of the areas that the experts focus on when performing their inspection. Now, the next thing is what we call pluralistic inspection. Now, what is a pluralistic inspection? Now, this involves meeting where users, developers, and human factor people meet together to discuss and evaluate step-by-step of a task scenario. Now, when we say to identify or to discuss and evaluate step-by-step of a task scenario, it means that this is not conducted by just one person. This inspection, as the name implies, it says pluralistic inspection, which means that many people are involved in the inspection. Number one, the users. Why do we need the users? Because we need their feedback. Number two, the developers. Why do we need the developers? Because they are the ones that develop the system. Number two, we are also interested in human factor experts, people who have expertise in that area. Please, somebody has turned on his mic or her mic. Please kindly turn off your mic. All right. Now, the next thing we'll be talking about is the process of how pluralistic inspection is being conducted. Number one, as mentioned earlier, it starts with the review of task scenario step by step. Number two, it also involves discussing usability issues. Number three, people are allowed to share their perspective, especially the users with their feedbacks. And then, of course, human experts are also expected to suggest improvements. So these are some of the processes of achieving a pluralistic inspection. Now, another type of inspection is called the consistency inspection. Now, consistency inspection ensures that ensures what we call a uniform design across the product. Now, when we say a uniform design, it means a similar product should be provided all through. We don't want a situation whereby the home page is good, but the about page is not as good as the home page. So we need to ensure similarity, or we need to ensure uniformity in terms of the design. So what does the expert do here? The expert compare multiple designs and ensure that all designs are within the same level and have achieved the same design success. Then the expert also needs to check for the consistency to make sure that the same algorithms, the same complexity are maintained all through. And number three, the expert needs to ensure that same operations work similarly. Now, what is the purpose? The purpose of all this is to, number one, improve learnability of the system. Number two, reduce confusion so that anybody can have access to the system and nobody is left behind. And then number three, maintaining good design standard. That is why consistency inspection is very important. The next on the topic or on the line is the activity analysis. Now, what is the activity analysis? Activity analysis is used early in the development, and it involves observing users at work. That is why we call it activity analysis. So it involves work. It also involves studying tasks as well as subtasks and their subdivisions. And then, of course, it involves understanding the workflow. Now, in this process, data is being collected. Now, the type of data that is being collected here is the qualitative data. I believe you all know what a qualitative data is all about. Qualitative data is a non-mathematical data, or is a non-numerical data that provides certain answers to a particular problem. And then, of course, user requirements are also collected, as well as task patterns. Next is inquiry method. The following usability evaluation method involves collecting qualitative data from users, although the data collected is subjective and it provides valuable information on what the user wants. Now, when we talk about inquiry methods are also a method of collecting qualitative data from users. And this data, this method helps gather opinions, and sometimes they help gather understandings of needs or requirements of the users. At times, it captures subjective feedback. So this is what an inquiry method does in terms of this interaction. Now, the next one is the task analysis. Now, in talking about task analysis, we're talking about you studying or analyzing user goals, user workflow, task step, as well as task structure. Now, what do we hope to identify, or what do we hope to find out, or what do we hope to analyze in this situation? Number one is the main task. And what is the main task? The task at hand. The task at hand is the major goal. Number two, we need to understand, or we need to identify the subtask, that is tasks that we may consider as secondary, not primary. And number two, it also helps us identify required actions that needs to be carried out. Now, number two, for the next one is your focus group. Now, what is a focus group? Now, focus groups are usually moderated discussions. Now, what do we mean by moderated discussions? These are discussions that lead group of people, participants, through a set of questions on a particular topic. Now, these questions are curated. These questions are moderated. These questions are premeditated. Why do we say they are premeditated? Because before the beginning of the discussion, the questions were drafted and everybody knows what the question is, and therefore they are ready for with their answers. And normally it can have up to 6 to 10 users, and then of course a few number of moderators and facilitators. And the process normally starts with discussion about the product idea, then sharing opinions, and then suggesting features that need to be improved. So this is what focus groups are all about. Now, what are questionnaires? Now, questionnaires are also considered as a means of information collection or data collection. We collect users' opinions using questionnaires or surveys. Today, we are so advanced that in the past, we have to draft the questions in a sheet of paper. But with the advent of technology today, we can actually draft the questions on a web-based application form, which allow us to key in different questions so that the users can answer and share their unbiased opinions. Now, what is the advantage of survey collection? Number one, as we know, it's not very expensive and it does not require much equipment, and it is easy to distribute, and it reflects user feedback, which is very, very important. Now, moving forward, we'll be looking at the prototyping method. Now, first and foremost, what is a prototype? So a prototype typically is a modifiable version of a particular system that needs to go through testing before the main system is being developed. This is what we call a prototype. So in prototyping, we actually create early version of systems so that we can have a caricature of that system before the system is put to use or is put to review by experts, users, and stakeholders. Now, prototyping methods also are of different types. We have what we call the rapid prototyping. We also have the subject testing. And then what again? We have the remote usability testing. We have the we have the subject-in-tandem, and I think that is all. So let's look at them one after the other, and we're going to be very brief here. Now, starting with the first one, which is the rapid prototyping. Now, rapid prototyping used early in the development of a particular system, and they are very fast and inexpensive to develop, and they help us in refining the design. For example, we can say that we can put something on a paper. We can put out an idea on a paper or on a blackboard so that we give somebody a conceptual idea about what the prototype is. Now, what is the benefit? The benefit is that we can easily change the functions without affecting the main system. And it reduces risk because it prepares us to face even bigger risk. And no programming is required, no implementation is required. At this time, all we're using is just a piece of paper for illustration of the idea when the idea is not yet matured. Now, the next is your subject testing method. This is also another prototyping method which involves testing real users. Now, in this case, the test is real and it is ongoing on real computer users or system users. Now, what do we collect during this process? We record information such as the task completion time, such as the user behavior, such as the attitudes of the user when user was implementing or doing one thing or another. And usually it can be conducted through experimental process or video recording, or sometimes through quantitative data collection. Now, the next type of prototyping is the remote usability testing. And remote usability testing allows users to test a particular system from their environment. Now, one thing you should know is that in remote testing, the tester does not have a physical access of the system, but rather a remote access. So sometimes it is achieved by the use of tools such as screen sharing or video conferencing. Number next is the thinking aloud protocol. Now, thinking aloud protocol allow users to speak their thoughts while performing a given task, which means as they are enjoying the apples, they're also telling us how much the apple tastes or how sweet is the apple. That is one closest example I can think of as far as thinking aloud protocol is concerned. Users speak their thoughts while performing a particular task. Like somebody test running a car. You give somebody a car to test run. As the person is driving, the person is telling you, wow, the gear is very strong. The steering wheels are very soft. The suspensions are good. Now, this is what we call thinking aloud protocol. Now, the next on the list is what we call subjects-in-tandem. Now, what is subject-in-tandem? In this situation, two users appeared together, meaning that we have two case studies. Two people are working together, so we pair two people together. Now, they work together, they talk aloud, and they discuss the task. Now, what is the benefit? The benefit of this is to identify a problem and then get a suggested solution. And then lastly, improve the design usability while receiving feedback from both the peers. Now, we are moving into an entirely new new subtopic, which is cognitive walkthrough. Now, these are other cognitive theories that I may call a supplement of what we have been discussing. And the first one of them is the cognitive walkthrough. Now, cognitive walkthrough is also an evaluation model which evaluates the ease of learning, or what we call the first time user experience. Now, when somebody uses something for the first time, or when somebody is seeing something for the first time, we say that they are having a cognitive walkthrough, which means they are seeing that for the first time. I want to give you an example with with couples who are newly wedded, but I don't want to do that because I don't know if we have people who are below 18. So I will reserve my comment. But the smart ones will understand where I'm heading to. So when you experience something for the first time, we call it a cognitive walkthrough, and it is used for prototyping as well as final product illustration. So this is what the cognitive walkthrough is all about. Now, the next type of evaluator or evaluating method is the benchmarking. Now, what is benchmarking? By the way, what is a benchmark? Benchmark is a, oh my God, what is benchmark? I know the definition, but I kind of forget what a benchmark is. A benchmark is the, oh my God, benchmark. Let me say benchmark is a metric or is a yardstick used for measuring a particular thing to ensure that that thing has reached to a certain standard that can be used to be compared with others. I think that is called a benchmark. That is a benchmark. So when we talk about benchmarking
right.
as a method, yeah, I'm right? Thank you very much for confirming that. So when we're talking about benchmarking creates a standard performance test, which means when we have a benchmark for something, let me give you an example with a, let's use another example with a car. Now we can say that Mercedes-Benz is the benchmark for all luxury cars. If a luxury car does not reach the benchmark of a Mercedes-Benz, then it is not considered a luxury car. This is just one example of benchmarking. Or we can say that we're going to conduct a test tomorrow, and the first person to reach 70 will set the benchmark for the A grade. That is another example of benchmark. So why do we need a benchmark? We need a benchmark in order to measure or in order to set limits or to set standard for time to complete a particular task, or a time to fix a particular error, or a time to learn a system, or a system functionality. Now, from the last few days, if you are following the news, particularly social media, particularly Facebook, I'm sure you must have come across the story of the, what do they call this, exploration discovery. People have gone to space. Somebody to remind me the name. The name of the mission. Artemis. Okay. Have I pronounced it correctly? Artemis. Can anybody confirm that? Nobody is watching the news, right? You guys are always on your TikTok watching girls and girls watching whatever, right? So this is called the Atmos, is it Atmos or Atmos, something like that. So there has been a group of astronauts who have gone to see the moon. Now, according to the benchmark stated that the first people in the whole world cross the 3 million kilometer milestone is this particular Atmos mission. Okay, so you see, this is a benchmark. When we put a standard for something, yes, somebody is saying something. Go ahead. What do you want to say? So maybe he's afraid to talk. Let's continue. So when we're talking about benchmarking, always remember that benchmarking is all about setting standard for a particular performance test. Somebody has turned on his what do you call it? mic, please turn it off. Am I audible? Can you hear me, please?
Yes, sir, we can hear you.
Yes, sir, we can hear you, sir.
Yes. So let's move to the next topic. The next topic is called the meta-analysis. Now, the first thing we should be asking is, whenever we see the word meta, what is the meaning of the word meta? Any idea, class? Meta. What is the meaning of meta? Anybody? Anybody? Can anybody heroically tell us the meaning of the word meta? Or am I not audible, class?
You are, sir.
Yeah, audible, sir.
So what is meta?
Meta is
meta?
Three functionality.
Is what? So no information about meta, right? So basically, whenever we talk about meta, we're actually referring to information about information, or we mean data about data. Now, let me give you an example with your names. Somebody should tell me his name. Please give me a name that I can pronounce. Somebody should give me a name. Anybody?
Eunice.
Say again.
Eunice.
Eunice, right? Eunice.
Yes, sir.
So your name is Eunice, but what is the metadata about you? The metadata about you is, let me make a guess. Maybe you are tall, you are fair in complexion, maybe you have a pointed nose, and maybe you have a broad lips. So that is data about you. So when we say meta means data about data, or data about, or information about information. That is called meta. So in the case of this situation, meta-analysis does what we call it's a kind of statistical procedure that combines multiple study results in order to find a given solution. Okay, so when multiple results across multiple studies are put together, we have what we call a combined multiple study. Now, this meta-analysis also involves a kind of statistical evaluation, which is a very, very powerful way to determine the usability of device, because it combines multiple studies to provide a very accurate quantitative support. So this is meta-analysis. Meta is actually a very strong way of analysis that combines different analytic approaches in order to arrive at a conclusion during a particular test session. So when testing for usability, we try different approaches so that we arrive at a very accurate result. So this is what meta-analysis is all about. Now, moving forward, we're going into persona. Now, what is a persona? Persona are usually fictitious characters that are created to represent the different user types within a targeted demography that might use a site or product. Now, in short, we can say that a persona is a fictional user profile. Now, why do we need a persona of someone in a usability testing environment? We use a persona in order to have a right or an accurate behavior of that particular person. So sometimes a persona may represent the user's type, the user's goals, as well as the user's behavior. Now, I can make this joke and say that when somebody is behaving exactly like me, I can say he is my persona, meaning that this person has an identical attribute to my personality. This is a persona, and the topic was first introduced by a scientist called Alan Cooper in 1998, and people used to use this technique for what we call early design stage in order to create empathy or to understand users. Now, moving forward, we'll be looking at another topic, which is evaluating the tests and metrics. Now, when we talk about evaluation, evaluation is the use of different criteria for measurement in order to test usability or in order to test the system to ensure that the system has reached a certain level. Now, we can use the same criteria to evaluate you as individuals, to see your performance or to see how good you are. And in trying to do so, this involves real users. It involves real users. Number two, it involves real tasks. The tasks are real. So we give real users real tasks in a real environment so that we can assess them based on certain testing methods or based on certain testing metrics. And usually, the use of observation has become very common, which include behavior observation, emotional observation, as well as difficulties observation. These are very, very essential. Now, earlier we talked about prototyping, but again, we're discussing prototypes, and we say prototypes are the subsets of the system, or they are the systems before the final version of the system, or you can call them the lesser version of the system. These are prototypes in a very nutshell. Now, what is a metrics? Metric usually is a yardstick or a standard for measuring one thing or another. When we have, for example, I don't know how good you people are in artificial intelligence. I would have posed a question right now about artificial intelligence metrics to test something and see. Now, let me tell you a quick story before we can continue. I wanted to marry when I lost my first wife. So before that marriage, because I was so used to my wife, I felt no any other woman can fill the position of my ex-wife. So what I did, I created a matrix. I say that in this matrix, the girl needs to be intelligent. Number two, she needs to do this and that. She needs to have this and that. And by the way, some of you may be thinking that maybe I was going for the physical looks. No, I wasn't. I usually have this belief that women who are extremely beautiful are not satisfying. You hardly find them obedient, and you hardly find them to be kind of responsible. I'm not saying all beautiful women are like that. No, I'm saying some of them. But in my experience, I do not include that in my metrics. So in order to achieve that, you know, it may sound so funny to you right now, or it may even sound untrue, but trust me, I had to date 48 women. I had to date 48 women
48.
in order to pick that. Yes, 48, in order to reach that my target.
Oh,
Now, some of them I dated for 1 week, some for 2 days, some for even 1 day. And in the end, I couldn't pick a single one of them among the 48, not knowing that the correct one is just sitting next to me, but I did not know. But God was so kind. God knew that my intention was pure. I wasn't going for the big things, the beauty and the stuff. I was looking for character. I was looking for somebody who will make me build a home, somebody we can build a family that will last generations. So finally, God gave me that particular individual. So you see, these are my metrics. I put a set of rules that she has to pass through all these criteria before she can be actually selected. So this is a practical example of what I call metrics. So sometimes in metrics, we kind of create a scenario that help us determine the task success rate, the time completion rate, the error rate, the user satisfaction, as well as user frustration level. So these are very important usability metrics that we always look at when deciding for usability. Now, there is also another discussion on metrics, which is testing the metrics. Now, how do we test the metrics itself? Number one, we have to we have to measure the efficiency of the metrics. Whatever information, whatever criteria we are putting along, you have to test the efficiency of that criteria. You have to test the effectiveness of that criteria, and you have to test or measure the satisfaction of that criteria. So this is what testing the metrics look like. Then we also have the documenting the metrics. Now, after testing, after we have reached our target, it's very important to document the metrics. So in order to do that, a designer must be able to observe or must be able to record all his observations. And number two, the designer must be able to record user behavior. And then finally, the reason for a particular problem. These are very, very important. Now, what are the benefits of usability? Now, the key benefits of usability is number one, increased user efficiency, as you can see. Number two, reduced development costs. Number three, reduced support costs and corporate integration. Now, what are these have to do with usability? Number one, efficiency is very important because every user is looking for efficiency, and this is the reason why a lot of people will prefer to use an iPhone over a Samsung or over a Huawei because of efficiency of camera. So people really, really are more interested in efficiency. Number two, people want to reduce cost of development. Now let's use iPhone again. iPhone wants to give you the best, but production of iPhone in the United States will be more expensive because there is no chip label in the United States. But taking the production to China will make the cost very less, and then of course the efficiency is there. And number three, the reduced support cost. Now, shipping a particular iPhone to China, from China to other part of the world is easier compared to shipping from the United States. So you see, even the logistics supports are reduced. And then in the end, we have the corporate integration. How do we integrate every aspect of the system together? So these are very important aspects, and this is why they are considered the major benefits of usability. So with this, I think we come to the end of this tutorial session, and I will allow the floor to open for any possible questions or contributions. I'm all ears if anybody has a question. This is a very long chapter, but I'm glad we cover it, and I hope everybody at least understand more than 50% of what we just discussed. I know it takes time. You have to go and study the book, but at least having this discussion will dissect the entire study section for you. So I'm open for any question. I'm listening. I'm open for question. Anyone? So if there are no questions, then I'll just call it a day, and we can prepare for the next class. I also found out that we need to issue a test or something like an assessment. So I think I'll be sending the assessment question to you through the WhatsApp group as well as the LMS. And I hope that please you will not use AI for answering your assignments. Please don't do that. Try to use your brain, and then we'll assist where you fail. But please, we want you to exercise your own impartial judgment on this matter, please. So I guess there are no questions today, right? No question today?
None, sir.
No question, right? All right. So,
No.
how was the class? How do you rate the lecture today?
Entertaining.
10 skills. Entertaining.
Yes, sir. The question, the lecture is, I rate it over 10. And before asking question, we need to go to the material because so.
So today we have about 17 participants. Well, we are making progress. We are making progress. All right. So, guys, let's call it a day. I wish you all the best, and I look forward to having you again on Thursday. Thank you, madam, and have a good evening.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much, sir. We appreciate it.
Thank you so
Thank
much,
you,
sir.
Yes, sir.
Our regards to madam.
Regards,
Madam.
mother, you know, man.
I will come to your DM to find out the 48
today
metrics
is
you
not
apply.
raining.
I want to be like you.
Sir, please, before you go, permit me to come to your DM for the metrics you apply in scouting the best from 48. Sir.
There is no need to go to DM. The thing is simple. You see, contemporary men today would tell you that being successful in life is not about having the largest bank account or having the most beautiful house or the most beautiful cars. Now, let me give you an example with one of the world's greatest personalities, which is the person of Mark Zuckerberg. Now, Mark Zuckerberg's wife, with all due respect to Mark Zuckerberg, she is not a very pretty woman, actually. In fact, she's from the part of the Asian region of the world. She's not very beautiful, and she doesn't have those structures that men would go for, such as the chest and the backside and all the things that would make a woman look sexy and the rest. But what is the rationale behind the choice of this lady? Now, according to sources, Mark Zuckerberg was after a woman who will support him and whom will not ask for divorce after he becomes rich, and a woman who will support him in times of difficulty, and also who will support him in terms of reaching the Asian part of the world. So that was his objective. Now, me being somebody who lived with a woman that I may probably say one of its kind, she's a very wonderful person and very difficult person to find, because nowadays women are most women. Let me finish. Most women these days are money centric. They care more about the money. I'm not saying all of them, but majority of them, they care about the money. But when you have a woman who will pick out of her own money to take care of you, or sometimes she will not even care whether you are the one spending or she's the one spending, and she supports your children whether you are there or not. My kids, both of them, they take first position in school, and one of them is 10 and the other is 7, but they talk about quantum physics as if they're in the university. And this is all the work of my wife. So for that, I think to get her replacement after she passed away was something I couldn't handle. So this is why I had to set those criteria. And the criteria was very simple. I need somebody who is intelligent. How do I know you are intelligent? I had a series of questions that I will ask you. Now, by the way, somebody would say, who is this guy? And why would he be doing this? Is it by force? Now, this is about what I want. Now, in life, you get what you want if you want. And I don't care what people say, and I don't care whether people will judge me or not. All I did was to set my standards. The first thing is I have a series of questions in a paper. I'll take you out on a date. We sit down as we're eating, we're talking. I'll be asking you questions that need intelligence. They are not even academic questions. These are questions about life, questions about living together, and so on. Now, from the way you answer, I will know whether this is the type of person I want. And then, of course, there are questions that I always ask women, and majority of women fail this question. I will ask, how would you treat my children when they come back from school? Now, majority of women will tell you that I think if you have the money to get them a lesson teacher, it's better you get them one, because I'm not a lesson teacher. I can't be taking care of your house and then taking care of your children's homework. Now, for me, that is a fail. If you cannot take care of their education when I'm not there, it means you are not supportive. And then, of course, the most important question is the question of faith and spirituality. I need to understand if you are spiritually okay. Many women don't go to don't go to schools to acquire the spiritual knowledge. They are more interested in looking good and getting their degrees. But for me, it's not all about the degree. I need somebody who would guide my children spiritually, somebody who will help them in the time of difficulty when they have to fight the external demons and the external devils. So these are just a few criteria, but most women fail in this. So they are nothing special. They are the things you and I know. We all know what is good, and we all know what a quality woman is. But the only thing is that we men are more attracted to women who are sexually oriented. We don't want a woman that will build a home for us. We want the one that will put in front of the car. We go out with her and everybody will clap and praise and say that he has the most beautiful woman. That is not the kind of woman I want. So this is my story. What was your question? Yes, contributions. I'm listening. I've answered the question already. All right.
Yes, and I've learned, and I know my other guys out there, and the ladies too have gotten it tonight in order to reach out to whoever that Mr. Right will be. Thank you very much for always merging our academic work alongside with real life situation. The other day, you mentioned I was going through one of our classes where you mentioned how you made up to a year, and I'm very glad and proud as your student that these days lecturers have gone beyond the four walls of school. I'm sure part of the reason why you choose this career is that it also helps you to reach out to your student. And one thing about learning is that while we are students, the lecturer indirectly also learn from the student at some point. And I'm sure my other colleagues too, we also learning in one way or the other. I sincerely appreciate you on behalf of others who may not be willing and also be bold to say it out the way I'm saying it. So I must say that the other day when you talked about how you trade or combine your other activities alongside with this lecturing job, trust me, it goes a long way to boost my morale. And one of these days, I'm going to be in your DM to learn more about that. Thank you very much, and I don't want to waste much of your time. I appreciate that.
Thank you. Thank you too. I look forward to that as well. Thank you very much. And one thing you said that I want to reiterate on is the fact that, when we give awards of degrees, we always want to say that you are not only awarded in terms of academic excellence, but we also look at your moral behavior as well as your conduct as a student. So it's not just a degree in performance, but it is a degree in character and learning. So one of the things that is missing today in our classes, especially here in Nigeria, is that most of our lecturers will just come to the class, lecture and go. They don't care about that aspect of life. But truly, if you are to attend one of my physical classes at ABU, trust me, you may thought it is not even a classroom, because we have a lot of fun. We talk about a lot of issues. It's not just knowledge, learning. Sometimes we pause, we discuss issues, we solve problems, and then we discuss things that will make us progress in life. Now, let me give you one last example. In one of my classes in ABU, I made sure that every student among the 400 students I'm teaching knows how to invest in the stock market. Now, 90% of them before that time, they never had any experience about what is even the stock market. But before that, we went through series of lectures, series of practicals, and through that, they were able to learn how to invest into the stock market. And now some of them are having their stock market as their side hustle. So you see some of them are making 5,000 naira a day, some 10,000 naira a day, which I believe for me is a way of improving their lives and bringing opportunities to them. So I think this is something that we should all uphold to, because it's not all about learning all the time. We should diversify in order to help others grow, not just intellectually, but financially as well. Thank you very much.
Hello, sir. Thank you, sir. We really appreciate your advice, sir. God bless you.
Thank you very much, sir.
I'll call it a day, and I guess we'll meet again in the next few days. Thank you very much. Good night.
Good night, sir.
Thank you, sir.
I want to say something.
Yes, sir.